Welcome all to this important webinar, which is on FAO Seed Treaty and its implications. This webinar is organized by 5 organizations. One is the BBSM, which is the Bharat Beej Swaraj Manch, which is a collective of seed savers and seed activists, and Asha Kisan Swaraj, and Save Our Rice campaign, which is working in, it's a movement in working in 7 states, basically trying to conserve a lot of paddy varieties, as well as campaign on the rice culture to bring back, revive the rice culture into this country. And Third World Network, which is an international organization working on sustainable agriculture and development issues, and bringing the actually voice of the South into these negotiations. And another organization is La Via Campesina, which is a peasant organization. It's a global organization of the small and marginal farmers, agricultural workers, indigenous communities, and across the globe it is having connection network. And all of us are here to actually understand the implications of this important treaty, which can impact our farm livelihood as well as the food security in the long term. And I will be moderating the session. My name is Usha. I am from Kerala. I am working on sustainable agriculture and then biodiversity conservation for the last 3 decades. And I am associated with the Save Our Rice campaign and Asha Kisan Swaraj. And this webinar is mainly for the South Indian states. But then I know that there are others, people from other states also. But this is to create awareness about this treaty among the seed savers, activists, researchers, and whoever is interested in biodiversity and its importance for our lives. And this treaty is supposed to be one of the very comprehensive in the context of the conventional biological diversity, which aims at guaranteeing food security through the conservation, exchange, and sustainable use of the world's plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. It was signed in 2001 in Madrid and entered into force in 2004. And India is one of the signatory to this treaty. So that means that our resources, plant resources especially, which is in our NPPGR institutions, are open to the world. People can access and then utilize and get the seeds from our institutions and then use it for research and development. And so that is, and 64 crops are already come under this, which is largely called the MLS system, multilateral system, which means that they are 64, all the varieties under these 64 crops are accessible to this, to the world, the globe, which sounds very good because this is for the humanity, for their sustenance and for the security, but there are legal implications which we are not aware of actually. This is happening ongoing for the last 20 years, but then in the same period actually in India or in other parts of the world, a large movement on seed sovereignty is also happening. It is developing. And India, we know that there are so many farmers and farmers organizations working on seed conservation, and they are developing new varieties, and they are getting into the market also. But then people who are actually working on the ground, they are not actually aware of this treaty, and they don't know what will happen, whether they can continue this kind of conservation or development of these varieties, whether it has any legal implications. So that is why we thought we should have an understanding, clear understanding of this treaty, because now this treaty is also looking at the larger plant wealth, not just the 64 varieties, but then the entire plant wealth in this world. They want to bring it under the MLS multilateral system, and the negotiation is going on. And from the civil society, from Third World Network and La Via Campesina, people are actually engaging with this process, and we will hear from them once I invite them. And thing is, by November, the negotiations will happen in Peru. Before that, there is one in Philippines. And in November, they will decide. That is what we understand, whether all the plant will come under the MLS. So we think that this is very, very, or this is not good, or this is very dangerous. So we should know more about it. So in this webinar, there are two speakers actually. One is Nitin Ramakrishnan from Third World Network and Tanmay from Lavaya Campesina, and Saumik also. He's also joining, Saumik Banerjee from BBSMR here. But then the main speaker, we thought we have Cindy Ramakrishnan from Third World Network. Once he do the presentation, Saumik and Tanmay will have some questions on this with Nitin, and there will be, so that it will we will have more knowledge or more understanding, more clarity on what was spoken by Nitin. And after that, the floor will be open for discussion. People can ask questions and then can get more clarity. So by saying this, I am inviting Nitin Ramakrishnan to give his presentation. Nitin, please join.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shchi. Thanks. I will also invite Tanmay, Saumik, Ushchichi, whenever you feel to intervene in the presentation, do not hesitate.
Okay.
Because it need to be made understandable to the farmers community who are perhaps for many of them first time hearing the issues. So putting it into your context and using the real life examples which you are handling will be very, very useful. So I invite you to intervene at any point of time you feel like intervening.
Okay.
Thanks everyone. Namaskaram. I'm also from Kerala. As part of my work, I actually observe negotiations in some of the organizations like WHO and FAO. And as a part of it, I've been part of the negotiations going on for last couple of years. If you remember, 2022 January, not January 2022, there was a governing body meeting of the Seed Treaty in Delhi. From that meeting onwards, I've been following negotiations associated with this proposal of enhancing multilateral system of access and benefit sharing in the treaty. But before going into more details, I think there needs to be an understanding regarding how we will arrange this presentation. Firstly, I don't know, there is a green screen box in my presentation from where it is appearing, but anyhow, let's move. So the scheme of presentation, I will basically introduce you some technical terms that will be used in this presentation. Then also I will talk about an idea called access and benefit sharing in short. Then I will compare in a slide two important international agreements or treaties related to this issue, which is Convention on Biological Diversity, and then the Seed Treaty or the Plant Treaty, which is the main subject of our discussion. This is to give a context how the Plant Treaty is functioning. And then I will explain how the multilateral system, which is a particular system established under this Plant Treaty, there are other topics dealt by the Plant Treaty. So how this multilateral system is functioning, and then what are the proposals to enhance the functioning of multilateral system. Also, what is this main proposal or very problematic proposal which Ushichichi was talking about, expanding access to all crops, to almost all plant germplasm or plant wealth, proposal to expand Annex 1. And then we will discuss some of the group, working group processes. This working group is the group which was mandated they were mandated to work from 2013 onwards. And in 2019, there was a pause, an indefinite pause to their work. Then in Delhi, this work was resumed when the 9th governing body meeting happened in Delhi. So after that, there was also one more governing body meeting in Rome, which was in 2023. Now the next will happen in Peru, where the process will be finalized. Let's see how it will move on. So with regard to basic terminologies, ABS basically means access and benefit sharing. CBD is Convention on Biological Diversity, one of the international agreements signed by almost 194 countries, which is the general law regarding access and benefit sharing. Then there is International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources, for food and agriculture, which is the plant treaty or the seed treaty, the main subject of our discussion, which is connoted as ITPGRFA. Another word, technical word important for you is PGRFA, which is the Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. To simply understand it, PGRFA means seeds or any propagating materials for cultivation, etc. So that's PGRFA. It's basically seeds. To understand it more, we will discuss what does it look like, etc. And then MLS is multilateral system. We'll discuss what is the difference between multilateral system as well as other systems. Then IPLC is indigenous peoples and local communities. IPR is intellectual property rights. SMTA is something called as standard material transfer agreement, which is used for sharing seeds under this treaty. And NPPGR, National Bureau for Plant Genetic Resource. ICRISAT, International Crop Research Institute for Semi-Arid Crops. These are institutions in India. One is national level institution, another is an international level institution dealing with sharing of seeds, etc. Let's move on quickly to the subject. So ABS in short, access and benefit sharing in short. So before going into this discussion, I just want to let you know what is it that we are trying to talk about. Generally, when we conserve seeds or when we cultivate seeds, right, we try to have our own savings for the next season. Sometimes we try to give it to community seed banks. Sometimes we give it to governments, right? Like, so we do this kind of seed sharing. And when these seeds are further shared for research and development, right? Maybe to develop new hybrids or new varieties, or even some more complicated processes like gene editing or gene modification, right? To use these seeds for further research and produce new varieties, etc. Not only to produce new varieties, but also like if you can use some of these seeds to produce something like food flavors or food ingredients, or even processed food like potato chips or beer, etc., etc. This process of sharing it for kind of research and development to convert this resource into a product, it's called access. And when as per certain international treaties and national laws, when such kind of access is provided, there is generally an obligation to share back benefits arising out of those research. So let's say, for example, when you give a particular medicinal plant and someone develops a medicine out of it, a very crucial medicine for, let's say, for cancer, and then the person decides to sell it on high prices, which is not even affordable for some of our country fellow people. You as the provider of this medicinal plant actually has an ability to put an agreement or an obligation on this particular recipient to give that medicine back for free or for fair cost or affordable price, or give it to public distribution system like the government hospitals, etc., for such an amount or such a limited number of doses, etc., etc., in a fair and equitable manner, which should not be like causing a lot of loss to the other side, but at the same time it should also be ensuring that whoever is actually in the sense of equity and justice requirement for that medicine, they should be allowed to get those medicines. So to club these two ideas of benefiting and also doing research, innovation and benefiting, they brought this idea called access and benefit sharing, A plus B, A plus BS, that's ABS. So this is what is basically ABS in short. Now, there are technical subjects like regarding what is genetic resource, what is genetic material, what is genetic information. We are not going into all these things. We just have to understand whenever a biological resource capable of producing certain characteristics is shared for research and development, it's considered as access. And then after the research and development, the benefits needs to be shared fairly and equitably. And for that, some agreements or some legal obligations has to be created. Now, what is it here very critical to be note is that this providing access is always the prerogative of the country of the origin, as well as the local communities who develop such resource. So as per the Convention on Biological Diversity, you have this right to determine who should have access to your resources on what terms and conditions research should be undertaken, on what terms and conditions the benefit should be shared. If you have some other concerns like, whether the research should not be used for, certain, what you call as not so environmentally good research, like maybe something which is affecting your community, affecting your land, or maybe something for bioweapon, etc., etc. You have ability to legally create obligations to monitor, to regulate how these resources will be used by the researcher who are accepting it and going forward like that. So this has been a very important one, that access is based on the sovereign right of the country as well as the local communities and their prior informed consent. You need to know who is the researcher and how the research will be taken up and what is the possible outcomes, whether there is any harmful outcomes, etc., etc., should be very, very clearly understood by the provider. So only then that consent is valid. So you have to have a prior informed consent aspect from access perspective. When it's from benefit sharing, it should be fair and equitable. It should be meaningful. It should not create loss for either the inventor. It should not also create any any unnecessary burden or problems for it should not be like excluding some people from the local communities having access to these newly developed products, etc. Like that, a general understanding of fair and equity. There's no definition about what is fairness, what is equity, etc., etc. But generally, speaking, justice, in an equitable, a reasonable, fair manner, a proportionate manner of sharing of benefits. This is ABS in short. Now, let's take CBD and the Seed Treaty, which are the two international treaties relating to this issue. Do you want any pressing questions regarding this first slide at this stage?
There's one question in the chat, Nitin, about whether PGRFA includes non-genetically modified seeds or not. Somikda has answered, but if you want.
1 second. Why did my share?
Genetically modified. Whether it comes under this treaty.
Just a second, my slide jumped off. Okay, so PGRFA means definitionally it is just plant genetic resources. So it doesn't matter whether it is developed naturally or genetically modified, etc., etc. It can be considered as part of PGRFA. But yeah, that's the answer. It can be considered as part of it. Two treaties regarding CBD and Seed Treaty. So CBD is, as I said, Convention on Biological Diversity. Now, Convention on the Biological Diversity is a general law. It is not actually creating any system, any particular institutional mechanism for you to actually, share the seeds or share genetic resources and get benefits out of it. It generally says the treaty is for conserving sustainable use as well as access and benefit sharing relating from the genetic resources. It's more of
Hello, Nitin.
Yes.
Your screen is not seen.
Oh, sorry. Oh. I don't know. Share screen, LibreOffice, share from.
Yeah, not seen.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, so I was talking about this is general law, and it is actually giving the right or recognizing, not giving the right, recognizing the right of indigenous peoples, local communities, as well as countries, their right to determine conditions of access for environmentally sound purposes. It's a very important phrase, right? It is not like countries can just create a system and give access to anybody, any researcher for any type of research. It's very clear that the states has got sovereign rights. IPLCs have also got full rights to determine the conditions of access, but that access should be for environmentally sound purposes. So the research has to be environmentally sound. It cannot be for purposes which is against the principles of what we understand as and sound environmentally good. That is very important. And benefits arising from the use should be shared back with the providers. So whoever is um, providing it, that benefit should be definitely given back to them, right? And then this benefits could be in a different variety. You know, it can be sometimes a knowledge about the resource which you shared. Like, for example, you shared a resource, you don't know all characteristics or all qualities of that resource. The researcher find out a new quality, a new character. So telling you back, hey, this particular use or this particular characteristic for you, that is also a benefit. But then it's also like, while sharing that access, you can always say, hey, look, when you identify a new quality or a new characteristic, then you and I should have some form of understanding how we will put that characteristic into use. If you are putting it into a commercial use, how should I benefit it? Or should we together jointly develop some product using that characteristic, etc., etc., is all part of this ABS negotiation when you give this access to the researcher. So there can be technologies developed, there can be products developed, services developed. And then even when people share or make business out of these resources, they should share a value. So for example, if it is a medicine, right, it could be a very important medicine and a license to your country to produce it. Like, for example, the vaccines during COVID-19, right? It was there, but supply was slow. And if there was a license to India more than what Serum Institute got, like there are other companies or other manufacturers who were able to produce it. If there was licenses, we would have actually saved several million lives, than waiting all these while, right? So like that, it can be a technology licensing. All these things can be part of it. Like if sometimes somebody make a perfume, you might not be very much interested in having a license of manufacturing this perfume or etc. But you might really have an interest, like this is a commercial luxury product and the producer has making a lot of money. So why don't we have some share of that profits to do some more kind of wealth creation for the local community, or do some other support for the local systems, etc. Like that, there can be a variety of benefits. And intellectual property rights on the inventions using these resources, that is also subject to negotiation between you and the recipient. You can actually negotiate and decide what it is. Generally, naturally occurring resources, the understanding is that there shouldn't be any IPRs on that kind of a thing. It's not necessarily a CBD law, but as a part of your sovereign rights or your full rights to determine how this access should be given, you can also regulate intellectual property rights on your resources. So this is the CBD framework, a general framework. A country can decide how does it work. India decides in the one format. South Africa decides in another format. All these things can work. I mean, it's up to their national circumstances and situations you can develop. Then comes the Seed Treaty, which is the subject matter of today's discussion. Basically, what is it doing is that it is obligating government entities or your state to share PGRFA, which is seeds, one type of genetic resource, one type of biological resource, as per terms and conditions determined by the governing body of the treaty. So the treaty has got 154 countries participants, signed countries. They all constitute a governing body, and the governing body will determine some terms and conditions, and they have put it into a standard contract, which is called as SMTA, Standard Material Transfer Agreement. So that governmental entities are obligated to share seeds under these conditions, not the conditions under which your country or your national authority might decide, or you as a local community providing this seeds to the NPPGR or any other organization you decide. It's not like that. It's already set by the governing body of the treaty. And what happens to the benefits? Benefits essentially from the recipient, they're only asking two types of benefits. One is information, like if, for example, you give it to an agriculture university a seed, and then the university studies and develops some knowledge about it, then that knowledge should be shared back with you. That's one of the benefits they're talking. It's a very important benefit. But even there, the problem is the recipient has given an authority to determine what is confidential and what is not confidential, and they may not disclose you full information which they have identified from your seed. So they will only share something which is they think is not really valuable for them, etc., etc. So the full authority is given to the recipient. There is no definition about what can be confidential, what cannot be confidential, no guidance. So this is the aspect regarding information. Now, the second aspect is money. And the money is actually coming from a particular way, in the sense like if the recipient develops the seeds or develops a new variety using the seeds given by us, and that new variety is entering the commercial market, is being sold, and also he is not further allowing other researchers to do research on his new variety. If these three conditions are met, then there is a small amount of money which he has to, around 0.7% of his profits, has to be given to a fund. Now that fund is managed by FAO. It goes to the FAO. And all the farmers or all the organizations, civil society organizations, gene banks, other organizations, etc., have to apply in a competitive manner, like project applications, etc., like to conserve seeds or to sustainably use seeds or do research or establish community seed banks, etc., etc. Like you develop a project and compete with the rest of others in the world to get what is entitled to you, right? So it basically, as providers, keep competing for the benefits which should have been actually coming to you directly. So this is how the treaty benefit sharing system is working. Now, intellectual property rights, the major argument the treaty came into being was also to ensure that the access to the seeds should not be curtailed by intellectual property rights. It should be available for all farmers or peasants. That was the an original intent also. One part of the original intent. And so they tried to have a language which says intellectual property rights on the resources, like on the seeds, in the form which you have shared, cannot limit access to such resources. It's a very technically drafted sentence. I'm not quoting exactly the sentence. The meaning is that IPRs can be allowed as long as sharing of seeds under MLS, under the system, under this treaty is not affected. So some countries do not allow IPRs on any life forms. There are countries which allow some IPRs on some other life forms. But if the recipient, if the breeder of the seed company takes up a decision like that, okay, we are taking up an IPR and we are not questioning anybody sharing seeds under MLS, this IPR is allowed. So this is not a very strong ban on IPR, right? That's how it is, written in the treaty. This is the situation of the seed treaty. So this is how to basic short comparison between CBD and seed treaty. I would argue seed treaty is an exception, is actually creating a set of limited crops which will be shared under this system in a centralized or a standardized terms and conditions to support some ideas like food security. And that's what is written in the treaty as such. So I move on to the next slide. I hope there are no big questions at this stage. This is regarding how the seed treaty is currently functioning, or the multilateral system is functioning. Why this is called multilateral system? Because it is developed, the system is developed, or the terms and conditions is developed by international negotiations at the FAO, right? It's not naturally determined by your national authority or you as a community provider. It is developed, this terms and conditions is developed by the seed treaty organizations. Now, what they're doing is they're saying that the multilateral system covers only a negotiated selection of crops. It will cover only 64 crops selected on the basis of food security and interdependence of countries. Food security, all of us know that should be very important. It should be something related to your staple food or foods which will contribute to your nutrition, etc., etc. And also interdependence. What do they mean by interdependence? Like, for example, let's take the case of tapioca. We know, in Kerala and in India, we do cultivation of tapioca, but the origin of tapioca is from, Latin American countries. And there are more diversity of tapioca kind of, crop in several other parts of the world. So in order to have better, breeding purposes, breeders need to have access to these genetic diversity across the world. So when certain crops belong to a situation where the center of cultivation, the center of origin, the center of diversity are all different countries, there is an interdependence between countries. In these situations, there needs to be easy access. So MLS is providing access. So 64 crops are being selected on this basis. And actually they say this is only for specific purposes of research, breeding and training. They're not for food and agriculture. This is what they're saying. So which means if you take the seed, like for example, Navara you take, and you take a medicinal product or make a medicinal product out of it, this is not covered under the treaty. You are not allowed to do that. You should only do that by coming to National Biodiversity Authority of India and going to the State Biodiversity Board of Kerala and then going to Biodiversity Management Committee of Palakkad. And then you have to do this kind of a ABS agreement under the CBD system. That's how it should work. But here they're saying for research and breeding, you can allow this. Now, the problem with here is this research and breeding for food and agriculture. It's not just to make seeds. You can also use it to make food ingredients. You can also make it to, make food flavors. You can also make processed food. Like there was a case of barley. When the barley was given for research and breeding, a beer company used it to create a particular variety of barley and started producing beer and started selling beer. They never engaged in seed sales. So even though the beer company made money, the money was not shared with FAO or even with the national authorities for other matter. So there is some problem in this. We will discuss how does it happen. And what is happening is that national authorities like NPPGR or Ministry of Agriculture or different countries notify whatever collections they have with them. And what happens, there are institutions like international gene banks who take such resources from the SMTA, like from the national gene banks or national collections. When they take up this standard material transfer agreement, which I told developed by the governing body, has a phrase in it, says that there is no need for accession level tracking. So means which you are giving a packet of seeds, you don't have to attach, barcodes to each packet of seeds and track from where it is moving, from which gene bank to which gene bank, from which gene bank to which breeder, which gene bank to which university. This kind of tracking is not required. So this is what it is saying. And the breeders, what they do actually is, mostly they go to the international gene banks and get it from them. They don't come to national authorities. So if you go and see what is happening in countries like Asia or Africa, Asian countries and African countries are signing SMTAs in a very limited number, 80s, 100s. These are the numbers which they, total together, all Asian countries together have signed around somehow 100, or African countries, I think I remember the number 83 SMTAs, etc. But for the same crops, like when the crops are from the African region, international gene banks are signing more than 15,000 agreements. Same with Asia, 16,000 agreements, etc. So you know who is actually going where and getting these seeds. And our authorities or even our providers, our local communities, then slowly do not have any information regarding who is accessing these resources. So if, for example, if your seed from NPPGR has gone to ICRISAT and a breeder has taken from ICRISAT, NPPGR has no information which breeder has taken it from ICRISAT. And you as a farmer who gave it to NPPGR also have no information who has taken it from ICRISAT. So you do not have an ability to clearly informed to safeguard your rights against IPRs, etc., etc. You are basically in a gray area of information situation. Now, this SMTA, but has a very different other condition. That condition says governing body should be reported. This all agreements, whoever is signing SMTA, etc., etc. This SMTA, this should be reported to governing body, which means ICRISAT has to give all the SMTAs it signed to the or information regarding the SMTAs which are signed, who has signed, which company has signed, who has taken seeds, which researcher has taken seeds, which types of seeds. These information, they have to give it to governing body through Secretariat. Now, for over the last 20 years, what Secretariat has done is that Secretariat collects all this information, will not pass it to governing body. To the governing body, it will go as aggregate numbers. These many SMTs have signed, these many seats have been shared, etc., etc. Only numbers, no narrative regarding who is accessing seats. So this is a real problem whereby we don't have any information regarding who is accessing and who is working on our seats. And as I said, like SMTA can be interpreted for several types of food and agriculture purpose, but monetary benefits comes only from seed sales. There is one more problem, which is that maybe before going that, I will finish the rest of the things and come back to the second bullet. I'll go to the third bullet. So what happened basically of this lack of information is that lack of tracking, accountability, transparency, and public oversight. Nobody has anything to ask. MLS generally fail to generate enough benefits. More than 6.6 million seed assistants shared, but only 6 users actually shared benefits back or money to the global fund. 25,000 or more users are there. Only so far 6 of them have shared money to the global fund. This is the status. Now, the problem, as I said, there is no tracking. You don't know if the user is using it for other purposes. Like for example, in the barley case, someone uses it for making a beer. That is seemed to be part of SMTA. I don't know. Arguments are there. It's part of SMTA because it's food and agriculture. But someone uses it for medicine. Ideally, all these purposes except seed sales, the user should have come to the country and paid national benefits at the country level or to the community directly. But we have no information whether these are being used for other purposes or not. There are certain evidences like this, but since there is no tracking, you cannot actually link that this access was through multilateral system. There was a recent study published by international agriculture research centers like the ICRISAT kind of centers in month of April. They said even the use of multilateral system in developing new seed varieties cannot be tracked. So they cannot be detected. So they are saying that there is no tracking and accountability. This is the status. Now, one other thing which is very latest issue, not very latest issue, also one of the significant issues is something called as digital sequence information from the seeds. Instead of accessing directly the seeds, with the modern development of biotechnology, what can happen is that researchers can generate something called as RNA, DNA sequence information and store it in internet databases. And several other researchers who are working in breeding or who are working in other sectors can use these sequences to select the traits. And then kind of use gene modification or gene editing techniques to replicate such sequences in their own varieties. So when I give this seed to you, as per the CBD, as per the National Biodiversity Authority, etc., I can have every authority to decide what should happen with the DSI, what should happen with the sequence information if you generate it. I can tell, hey, you are not supposed to give it to public. I can tell, hey, you can give it to public, but based on certain terms and conditions. I can tell, hey, you need to deposit back with the government. All these things I can say. But the FAO Treaty, this SMTA, which gives sharing seeds from 64 crops, is silent about this aspect of sequence information. And what is happening is that many recipients like international gene banks are creating the sequence information, or not creating, generating the sequence information and sharing it anonymously. So nobody knows who is using it, who is accessing it. Like that, it just shares anonymously. So even at that stage, we are losing benefits. Like we don't know what sort of benefits are generated out of the use of DSI and how benefits can be got from it. That benefits are also lost. It's easily accessible by medical authorities and pharmaceutical manufacturers or researchers. It's very easy for them. Like for the seed case, generally in the end, one or the other way around, you will have to come back to the seeds. Whereas when it comes to medicines, etc., they just need the compound. So, or the food ingredients, food flavor, they just need the compound. So having anonymous access to sequence information is good for them to skip all the benefit sharing obligations and engage in what you call as biopiracy. So this is a big challenge, which is also not addressed in the SMTA. Now, this is about the benefits. Let's think about IPRs. IPRs have been taken on several seed varieties as well as traits, if not the specific patent IPR, something called as plant variety protection, etc. And then you know that these rights are always used to harass farmers in many other ways. So as International Agricultural Research Center says, there is no understanding like, okay, there are so many, they did a study on all the several other patent applications which is available on the internet. And then they say, we don't even know which of the seeds are from the MLS are being used in these patent applications, etc. So there is a real challenge when it comes to this kind of process relating to IPRs. Now, given the situation, the proposals have been made to improve the functioning of this multilateral system by the working group. I'll go first to the working group slide. What they have done, as I said, it was from 2013 onwards, there was a working group in the treaty, around 25, 27 countries, trying to work on certain measures how to improvise this process. And it was suspended indefinitely in 2019. Then in Delhi, 2022, it started. Basically, what they worked, the working group was working from the last 2 years, where I was witnessing, with single point agenda. What is the single point agenda? How to make multilateral system attractive to commercial seed sectors. Why did this question came up? Because some people said that only 13% of the users of the multilateral system is commercial breeders. But 13% of 25,000 is a real good number. And it's around 3,000 or more users. And it's only 6 of them that's actually shared benefits. But I don't know why the entire working group was working on this particular assumption that multilateral system is not used by commercial seed sector. So we should make it available to make it attractive to them. That was a single agenda. They did not look into any other issues relating to the problems of working in the multilateral system. There was a mandate from the 2023 governing body. There was a resolution 7. They said to the governing body, to the working group, that when you design measures, you should take into account some implications regarding implications on farmers' rights regarding the proposed measures. So if you, like for example, if you propose to expand access to crops, how will it affect farmers? That has to be studied, and there needs to be some form of safeguards to ensure farmers' rights are not, created, infringed, or violated, or limited, or constrained. This is an important mandate given to the working group. There was not a single study. There was not even an agenda item in the working group to discuss these issues. Farmers representative Tanmay and there was another person from Europe. They really hard to several times said their concerns. None of their concerns are even recorded in the meeting report. This is how the working groups has functioned. And the working group has also proposed a draft package of measures, which is really biased in the same sense because it is only focusing on how to make it attractive to the commercial sector. And these proposals are fundamentally changing the nature of the multilateral system and treaty. I will show you why this is changing fundamentally multilateral system. And also, we must understand that there was no consensus in the working group. There were countries from Asia, Africa, Latin America, etc. tried to oppose some of these proposals. And these proposals are currently in bracket. And this will appear in the November meeting in Peru, where the governing body will decide these measures. We'll just see what are these proposals, and let's quickly and then probably stop the discussion, stop for discussions. There are basically 3-tier proposals which is proposed in the by the working group package of measures. I would argue largely the package of measures comes from the co-chairs, which is Australia and India officials, working on their independent capacities, develop these terminologies and text. not necessarily, it's all developed by the working group, but of course it has gone through the working group process. So it will be treated as an outcome from the working group meeting. Now, this entire package, they have proposed a package of measures, a group of measures on 3 levels of legality, like 3 layers of legality. First one is a very strong legally binding proposal to amend the treaty, which is binding on all parties, okay, which is increasing 64 crops of the multilateral system to almost all plants virtually. Now, there are certain nuances regarding all plants, which we will take up during the discussion. But the language of this amendment to treaty can be interpreted in a way that all plants under the jurisdiction of a country can be considered as part of multilateral system. So that's a very huge, broad proposal binding on all parties, legally binding, hard binding on all parties. If you are not making it available, you are actually committing an international wrong. That's the amendment to treaty. That's the first layer of measure. Second layer of measure is the amendments to the agreement, the standard material agreement which we're talking about, which is basically contractually applicable to all providers and recipients. Of course, it is also binding in nature, but contractually. Now, this proposal is used to improve what you call as monetary benefits coming to the FAO fund. What is the change in this? I would say a very minor change. If remember, I told they will share benefits when money when there are 3 conditions met. One, I have to develop a new seed. Second, I have to sell that seed in the market. Third, I will also block other researchers from doing some research on this seed. Only if these 3 conditions met, I will make some money into the to the fund. This was the existing SM. This is the existing system. So the change here is this minor change, which is saying that even if I don't block from other researchers from doing research on the seeds, I'm still supposed to make a payment. But that's actually 10 times lesser than the other payment which I'm supposed to make. So that's the very minor change to promote benefit sharing or promote monetary benefit sharing. This is what is the suggestion of the second level of legality. Then comes the third issue, which is the third level of measures, which are non-binding measures, which is not part of the treaty, not part of the agreement, but just an agreement, just a resolution, which is basically a document from the governing body, which is dealing with certain issues such as farmers' rights, intellectual property rights, and the digital sequence information. And there is literally nothing to improve tracking, accountability, transparency, or governance, etc. with the SMTA. So this is the status, and this is how the proposals have been made by the working group. I'll stop here. Then while we discuss, we will take up some more nuances of the proposals and what sort of demands which we can make and what activities we can do at the local level to counter some of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitin. I think there are some questions in the chat. Should
Sure.
we discuss that first and then move to Tanmay?
Please, please.
1 second. Soumik has tried to answer that in the chat itself. One question is like MLS may dilute CBD. Is
Yes.
it not?
Definitely. I mean, if it is covering all the plant, so it's going to say that all plant genetic resources for food and agriculture is covered. Whenever there is a national collection of seeds, then there is no application for NBA or CBD there. So let's assume that you are a seed cultivator or a seed farmer. Suddenly, a government agriculture university coming to you and saying, hey, let's have a research, let's study some, regarding this particular seeds you have. Can you share the seeds with us? And you give the seeds to the agriculture university, which is a government-owned university. It automatically becomes part of the national collection, right?
Okay.
And then there is no application of CBD on that, right? It becomes then automatically part of the MLS. Now, how will this be facilitated, or whether you can retain status on these seeds, etc., etc. It's a question, and we have to work on that.
Okay. I have one question, like whether Agriculture Ministry is involved in this process?
As far as I understand, it is only Ministry of Agriculture involved. There has been very less consultations regarding. Maybe
that is in fact
Yes,
very right. Yes,
Nitin,
Shobhan.
I will just have one question regarding this. That with that, suppose I am already into conservation of rice varieties and millets. So if I am doing it and I am not registering those varieties and I am not giving it to anyone, so this is on farm or in situ conservation. So in that case, are my varieties accessible under MLS?
okay. So there are two things we need to understand here legally. One is you conserving it in situ on the farm. So when you're doing it on the farm, there is the provision of the treaty says it has to be based on national laws. So it depends on national laws. On the farm, seeds needs to be shared. But if you as a farmer, it's in your private land, then you always have a property rights on those seeds. So definitely based on your consent only, they can take. This is the in situ situation. And if you are conserving it in a seed bank or a kind of a collection kind of stuff, Ex-situ collection, the expectation of the treaty is that you actually make it part of the MLS. And the treaty is asking governments to ask their natural and legal persons holding such collections to make it part of the MLS. And they are also saying if the governing body can take such certain decisions if such people are not making it part of the MLS. So tomorrow, if you are not making it part of the MLS, the governing body can take a decision what the governments need to do with you, right? That's also possible.
That is going to be tough.
Yes, and it is very important what Nitin just said, because the treaty actually says in the treaty text that contracting parties should make efforts to bring more and more collections, like encourage PGRFA holders to make it part of the PGRFA. Make it part of MLS. So, in fact, as Nitin said, it is possible that even the seeds that are in Shomik's fields, which are still not part of the gene banks, are targeted to be shared.
So what can
Second
be
question.
done? Actually, so maybe you can share that later.
We can come down to it maybe like after.
Yeah. I'll go to the next questions. Question. It appears it is okay if benefit sharing is fair. Giving access is okay. So somebody would like to come in for this, Nitin, Shomik.
So if you ask me, I will not agree with this because there
No,
are
actually, that
couple of
was being told when Nitin was explaining about ABS in general. So,
yeah.
so it is the ideal kind of situations, but that does not exist. That is what is thought of, but it doesn't happen in that way. We have seen how the seed treaty is working. So it was the question at the time when he was just explaining ABS in theory.
Okay. So actually, I would argue like in ABS, in CBD, they are very clearly saying access is for environmentally sound purposes. So, and when I spoke to some negotiators who actually negotiated CBD in 1990s, seniors from India, they told me countries like India and Australia are into this because they thought this will give a, an interface where governments can actually see what is happening with their natural resources, what sort of research is happening, and also, take some regulatory steps. So this was ABS was considered at that stage as a regulatory step than the situation which was existing before that, freely people coming and taking resources. So there is also a good lot of element of regulation and oversight, governmental oversight on the research, biotechnology research, which is actually part of ABS, which nowadays nobody talks about, sadly.
Yes, that is true. And one more important part is that see, our seeds are not a material of trade. That is very important. It's not like we give it to the highest bidder. There are many principles and many values that we need to consider first. Because sharing of seeds is already resulting in infringement of our rights. As Nitin said that be it in digital format, DSI patents or trade patents are being claimed, and then through these patents, farmers who have been using these seeds for generations are being harassed, are being penalized. So also these seeds have been taken from us. It's not like they have the receipts. Like if we go to gene banks and if we want a seed, we have to sign certain agreement. There will be certain conditions we have to agree to. But when they have taken from us, they have no record of from whom they have taken. They, like if you go to Indian National Gene Bank, they might have for every seed in which year it was collected, maybe the area and the region from which they had collected it. But definitely, it's very rarely that they have the data of the person, like the individual or the community from whom they have taken it. And it's a very globally agreed value that prior informed consent has to be taken before access is done. But our own governments have not followed this this principle. So we need to reclaim our rights regarding it. So whether the benefit sharing in terms of monetary or non-monetary terms is happening or not is a different thing. First, rights have to be ensured because our seats are already out there. They have taken it. So first, rights have to be ensured. Second thing is that benefit sharing has to be disconnected from access. So that's a big trick that they have played, like access, and then because you are accessing and making profit, you share benefit. Already the seed industry has been running for the past many decades based on the basic core collection which has come out of our collective efforts, and therefore and in fact that trade itself has led to disruption of our traditional seed systems, the informal seed sector, as they say in official terms. So in fact, irrespective of whether there is any more access given or not, we have to demand that whatever profits they are making, whatever money they are making, they have to start paying so that conservation and sustainable use can happen again. Traditional seed systems which are actually dying. Some resources are pumped into it because that is their obligation. It is not because we share and they make profit and they give. They have already made profit. If you see, we have the data of 2023. In 2023, 2023 global seed sector collectively made so much of money that if they were a country, they would rank 89th in the world, which is like 89th in the world, which is a bigger country than Cambodia, Nepal, Bhutan, Afghanistan, and many other countries. So they are already making such huge money, and they have they can do bully and change laws in many of the smaller countries and take away our seats. So I guess that is regarding the question about will it be okay to share access? Access is okay if benefit sharing is fair or not. So I think most of the things are covered. Next question was, how do I find out if naturally occurring variety or modified variety to understand IP applies or not? Maybe Nitin, you can.
I did not really understand the question. I mean, that's more technically related to IPRs. Perhaps people working in the seed sector will know more about it. And I don't know whether this is necessarily linked to the issue of ITPGRFA, right? It's about identifying whether a crop is modified or not.
I think as far as I understand the question, I think maybe it is being trying to ask that. Sorry, I lost it.
Yeah,
Whether
it is
naturally
basically that you want to know, you can get information on the passport data. The passport data will have all the information about the variety, about the whether it is modified or it is not modified, which I mean, what is the duration, all those things are mentioned. So if somebody wants to know if a variety is modified or not, then whatever information is there about that variety being maintained in the gene bank, they will be able to tell it.
Okay. So my and yeah, that is yes, Nitin.
Maybe shall we just finish our what we can do from Ushaji,
Yes.
and then
What I thought.
maybe
Because
we'll
all
take
the
up.
other questions
Because
in the
participants
chat
are now slowly
you have
going out.
covered.
Yeah.
So it is good to no, because one thing is now, because since you said it is under only the agriculture ministry is involved, then what is the role of biodiversity boards then? What, because that is the body where we can actually engage at the state level or even at the panchayat level. So if they are not into this space, they are not in the discussion, only agriculture ministry is involved, then what do we do?
Yeah. So maybe Tanmay, you want to go first, or should I?
You can go first. You can continue.
I'll just show the slides again, where I've written some demands, and maybe after that we can take further discussions. I'll also, because this is now a little bit strategic, I think it's good to stop recording. So may I request Dhruv to stop recording?